Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Pod Between Worlds. I'm your host, Steve, alongside co-host Ollie. And today we got some big rumors throughout the Star Wars galaxy with Disney Plus. We got some Bad Batch news, and we also got some Star Wars Squadron reveals today. Coming in hot.
All right, what do we got?
We got nothing. I don't have anything. We're not talking about any news.
All right, episode 9 over. Good, check.
All right, sweet. All right, peace out. All right, so first off, we'll just get the big news out of the way. The big Bad Batch.
Yep.
So over last week, actually just before we did our podcast with Star Wars Origins, they announced the big batch, the Bad Batch. Being coming up on Disney Plus in 2021. There wasn't a lot of detail or descriptions around it, as far as I know. So initially, what was your thoughts when you heard this news? I mean, what in terms of the Star Wars universe, what would you think?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit pre-show. My thing with these are like we obviously we're following a lot of the rumors, and we know a lot of these things are out there. So. As these TV shows and like the High Republic with Project Luminous, like as these things come out, I have this really weird reaction where when it first gets announced, I'm like, oh yes, like I'm so pumped, you know what I mean? Because it's like, all right, we're getting it. And then it like quickly fades because it's like, I kind of already knew we were getting it. And now it's just official, which is great, don't get me wrong, but I still have to wait like 8 months or a year or 3 years or whatever, you know what I mean? It's not coming out and we probably won't even get. I get more excited for like actual like previews or something. Like at least then you have some footage to deal with. You know what I mean? This was legitimately just the title, which again, like I'm not trying to hate on it. I'm just like, it needs to happen. I'm just like, I get excited for like 5 seconds. You know what I mean? Because then there's like not a ton of detail. This one was slightly different. Like when we get the Rebels sequel series, it'll probably be the same kind of thing where we get a title and maybe the title will give us a general feel for it and maybe they'll give us a timeline, which that'll be cool because it'll be nailed down to all the different rumors and it'll be like, okay, this is kind of what it's going to follow. But it won't be a lot of information and it'll just be like, it's always good to have it confirmed. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, it's that a little burst of energy that it's confirmed, but then it's kind of back to like, the waiting for some actual content, you know what I mean?
And as we go on with the show, you'll see that like all the rumors going around and everything, it's just like nothing's generally confirmed except this is
which is why it's good. I completely agree. You know what I mean? Like it's a step in the right direction. And this one, to be fair, this one hadn't had as direct a rumblings and as detailed a rumblings as like the sequel Rebels series that they're working on. So this one was just kind of like we had heard that there may be a sequel to the Clone Wars kind of deal and didn't really have definitive set rumors, or there were a lot floating out there. Obviously now the Bad Batch, those type of rumors were correct, you know what I mean? But we had, nobody knew the timeline kind of thing. So it's nice to know that. And I think it's an interesting time period as much as like we talk about a lot. I'm ready for something new. There are still little gaps like this time period right after the Clone Wars, like the very beginning of the Empire, right? And that third, like where the Mandalorian's taking place after Return of the Jedi kind of thing, well before the sequel trilogy, that are still of interest to me. There's still some stuff going on there. I'm kind of done with the original trilogy timeline in sense of giving me new stories packed in between those movies. Like I'm good. You know what I mean? Like there's 1,000 comic series, like, and none of them are done poorly. There's some really neat stuff in there. I want to branch out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So this one's an interesting time period, and an interesting group to follow. Cause we just kind of saw them recently in season 7. So it's kind of a fresh kick to what we've just, seen. Right. And, I don't think we have any confirmed canon things on whether they went through with Order 60. I mean, it's if any clones didn't have chips or were able to avoid it, it would be them, right? Because they're kind of the freaks, right? Like we don't know.
supposedly they said it was a choice between the Bad Batch and the Martez sisters. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but
okay.
I'm kind of glad it's the Bad Batch. Those
I mean, I'm sure if they were thinking that, I'm sure they'd do something interesting. I just don't know where you go. I would still be interested, but I think the Bad Batch is a better pick just because we're starting with something.
The clones are just
right, and we don't know exactly what happened to the clones. They got phased out, but it'll be interesting to see that whole thing, right?
Yeah, it'll probably it'll clean up kind of what happened to the. I mean, we just hear about it; we don't actually see it. So,
and they weren't really linked to any Jedi, so that's an interesting thing too. Like they were their own kind of squad that got sent on missions, where a lot of the other ones were like directly under a Jedi. You know what I mean? Like Cody and yeah, exactly.
You got Echo too. Well, we don't necessarily know what happened to Cody though. So
but I'm saying like when Order 66 happened, he gave the order to shoot at Kenobi. You know, so I'm saying like the Bad Batch may have not been with any Jedi at the time of Order 66, so they may not have even been in position to participate. Or they may have. I mean, we just don't know. They're more of a floater group. Like you could assume Rex is with Anakin and Ahsoka. We know he wasn't with Anakin, but you know what I mean? Like you can assume a lot of those generals were with their, or a lot of those commanders were with their corresponding Jedi generals. But the Bad Batch didn't really have that, so it'll be interesting. What did you think?
Well, I mean, I like the news. I mean, I was super excited about it. That arc was definitely a lot of fun to watch in season 7. And I like that the characters, they kind of had different, not that the clones don't have different personalities, but they were very unique, different talents. And I think I even said in a previous podcast, it'd be cool to see where they would go like as their own because they're so unique. And now we get a TV show on it. So I am particularly interested in seeing what happens to them after Order 66, just because there isn't a ton on that stuff.
Right.
That gap, like you were saying. It will be interesting to see if they stay with the Empire or if they become mercenaries. That's one thing people are kind of talking about all over the place. That it'd be very interesting to see if they become maybe mercenaries for hire, if they or if they stay with the Empire in some form or fashion. I get the feeling they wouldn't.
But it'd be interesting to see how they process it too, right? Because they have a lot of quote unquote black site knowledge, right? Like a lot of the deeper shadow missions. So I wonder especially if they don't have the chips, right? Because they were an experimental batch. It'd be interesting if they see through it and go, we weren't big fans of the Jedi, but there's no way they were betrayed the Republic. You know what I mean? Like maybe they see through it.
Yeah, I mean they could have in the arc they definitely made them a little bit the persona of a little bit of an anti-hero. A little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not much. They kind of touch the surface
compared to the standard clones. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always look at if you look at the Umbara arc.
Yep.
And the clones involved there, and you look at Bad Batch, it kind of, you get that feeling of all right, something's definitely off with them. I mean, clearly there is, but not enough to where I'm okay, I don't like these guys. They're evil, whatever. You don't get that, but maybe they're going to push that envelope a little bit more. It'd be cool just to see, how do they process it? What happens?
Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point for storytelling aspects. They are built much more similar to successful teams, right? Even a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle where they're clearly different, right? Raphael does it. They all have different personalities, but they all look slightly different. They all have it. Whereas the clones did have different personalities and stuff, and they did the haircuts, but these guys don't even really look exactly the same. They're much more differentiated, which I think works well for a version of really being able to attack different episodes as the unit and really making each of them shine in their own. You know what I mean? Which I think is cool. I think that's great for storytelling when you have the pieces. You know what I mean? Because if one gets hurt or one is incapacitated for whatever reason, you may see that weakness. Like, it's just good storytelling, right? It gives opportunities for that kind of stuff.
We haven't had in, to my knowledge, really, we haven't really had that kind of like team or
right
persona in Star Wars, really.
Because even when Jedi team up, they don't have that differentiating.
No,
they're supposed to, right? Like they in some of the canon stuff, they split up like Sentinels and Guardians, and you know what I mean. But it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like one specialized in it. They're superheroes. You know what I mean? As opposed to having specific talents. You know,
this is like your almost like your anti-hero superhero squad.
I think it even lends more. Yeah. Because even some superheroes, like, they're just overpowered overall, so their skill sets aren't like differentiated. I think this is a really neat thing where they're good at stuff and they're bad at stuff as individuals, but as the team, you know what I mean? Which I think is fun for storytelling. And then some of the rumors, like if we do get a Quinlan Voss sighting, or if there's a secondary arc with like some different stuff. So, but I don't know if you want to dive into that, because that's still very loose rumor, but.
It's a loose rumor. I think it would fit, honestly, because we still don't know what happened to Quillen Voss after Order 66. We have no clue. With Dark Disciple, I mean, you know, if you haven't read the book, which you should, you know, he goes to the dark side a little bit, and he does fit that persona of like kind of like a mercenary type Jedi. He has that. He has those characteristics. He has that background.
Yeah,
he would fit. I think he would fit right in with the Bad Batch. It would be actually, you know what? It'd be interesting if the Bad Batch were following him. He was the Jedi that they were following.
Right, and then somewhere in the seasons they meet up and they realize like he's not enamored with the Jedi either. You know what I mean, kind of thing. That would be cool.
Yeah, kind of like Rael Averross in a way, but different personas, I guess. Yeah. But. I mean, I think Quillen Voss would fit perfectly in that show.
I could also see them being kind of the original version of, like in Fallen Order, you have the Inquisitors, but you have the, have you played it yet?
No.
What are the Purge Troopers, I think, is what they're called. So they're like an elite storm. They're like under Inquisitors because they don't have the Force, but they're like an elite stormtrooper that are specifically to... Kind of. You know what I mean? Yeah, kind of, but specifically for hunting down Jedi. So that'd be interesting if they're like the original version of that at the beginning of the show. But yeah, it could go a million ways. It's definitely exciting. I just hope I'll be more excited for some footage and some, you know what I mean, some hard news. You know what I mean? But I'm glad it's confirmed, so at least we can move towards that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on from that, we'll. So another rumor, now we're going to go into a couple of rumors here. So supposedly, and I mentioned this on HoloNet Live earlier this week, that Hayden Christensen is in talks with Lucasfilms about coming back to play supposedly Anakin, not Vader, Anakin in Kenobi. Or that's what the rumor mill is. You know, it's not confirmed, as with anything with Star Wars. But you know, got a lot of circulation. So I mean, what's your? I'll just throw it back at you. What's your thoughts? I mean, if Hayden Christensen's gonna be coming back, are you super excited about this? Do you like the direction that they're going in?
Yeah. So I have a lot of mixed feelings on it. I've from the beginning said like Obi-Wan's one of my favorite characters, but I don't know that I need an Obi-Wan series. And that was at the beginning of when it was supposed to be a movie at first. And, you know, it's been a rumor for a long time. So now that it's like, you know, it is coming, I'm not unhappy about it, right? I will be excited. I'm sure it'll be great. I love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, so that's awesome. And I want more Obi-Wan. I just don't, in my like mind, when you start thinking about like interesting things when you're into canon, you know what I mean? Like, oh, what happened here? The Obi-Wan was just, I don't know, it just never, as much as I love him as a character, his story, as much as there's just that 18-year or 20-year gap where he's just in the desert, supposedly, right? I just kind of accepted that. I didn't need him to go on missions and stuff like that. So I am more waiting to see I'm cautiously excited about it. I'm sure I'll love it. I just don't really know what I want out of it. You know what I mean? I don't know what Obi-Wan has to do. But not my problem. I'm not writing it, right? Like, it wouldn't be what I would choose to write. I just don't know where he go where with all the walls that you're working, the box that you're working in, right? Like, of that timeline and what we know of Obi-Wan in A New Hope, and where, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they're gonna do. So, and I know that's a little off topic, but the Anakin thing, I mean, he's been rumored to be in every one of the new trilogy too, right? And so, like, it's like they want him back. I think it'd be great. At the same time, I wonder how they use him, because Darth Vader is one of those interesting things, kind of like The Mandalorian, right? Is like, you usually don't pay a huge actor to be the actor behind a mask the whole time. You know what I mean? And Darth Vader really doesn't take off his mask. So I hope if they do bring him back, my point is, like, having Hayden Christensen back is awesome, but he's Vader at that point. And they're going to use, like, Earl Jones, like, his voice, right? You know what I mean? Like, the Vader voice. So Anakin's really just going to be walking around in the suit. So hopefully maybe they can do some kind of flashback or actually use Hayden. You know what I mean? But again, I don't know the story. So to me, I don't know that it fits super well. I do want Hayden back. I do want to see him in something. I hope it's not like, hey, we brought Hayden back and he's in the suit and that's that. Like, it just doesn't seem to be enough for me. But
I don't think it would be like that.
So how do you use them? Flashback. It's got to be flashback, right?
It's got to be flashbacks. Because, I mean, the thing that I was thinking about is that if they do flashbacks with them, you could get flashbacks to the Clone Wars. That's what everyone's speculating. Like, you could actually get real live, like,
gotcha. I know some of the moments from the cartoon kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of just, we got him Attack of the Clones, but, like, that was.
No, I know what you mean. Like, some of the stuff we fell in love with the Clone Wars with, and see Hayden be able to act it out, and
like one of.
I'm not against it. I just, my feelings on the Obi-Wan thing. I don't know where it's going, so I'm just gonna. I don't have as many opinions on it, just because I don't really know. There's not something I want out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not. I think the show is not going to be more of like, I expect X, Y, and Z out of it. It's more of just like, all right, like, what just happened? Just to inform me. It'd just be more informative, I guess.
Yeah.
With Kenobi, with Anakin being involved, one of the things is he's going to be Kenobi's going to be like, well, we don't know yet, but it's implied he does a lot of meditation. He does a lot of training. Just based on what happens at the end of what's that novel? There was another, well, not just because of Revenge of the Sith, but there was another novel that kind of pointed out, like, oh, you should complete your training with Qui-Gon a little bit more. And it kind of had excerpts from it. I'm trying to remember what the novel was, though. I'm drawing a blank.
There was one that was, like, from a certain point of view that were all little mini stories, and it was from his point of view, and he actually is how he talked to Qui-Gon kind of deal. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, or.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about. So
the training thing happens in Return of the Revenge of the Sith at the end. Yoda tells him, like, you should commune with an old friend, and I'll teach you. Like, so I don't know if that's the line you're thinking of.
No. Well, okay. I know about that, but there was a novel that kind of explored a little bit more
into that. Okay.
I think that's what you're talking about, is the certain point of view. And so with that, he's going to have to probably process everything that happened with him and Anakin throughout the Clone Wars. He's probably going to have, like, I don't want to say, like, regret in some way. He's probably going to be processing everything that happened.
So you get more. Yeah, all right. I can see that.
So you might be like, oh, shit. Like, what if I did things differently? What if...
in that moment,
or maybe I shouldn't have let Anakin hang out with Palpatine as much as I did. Or, like, what have I done to, prevent... Like, I guarantee they're going to explore that kind of stuff.
So do you think that'll be, like, a mainstay in the show? Like, the show is very much flashback based, or this is just kind of like a episode kind of thing?
I don't know, because...
supposedly it's going to be short, too, right? Isn't it only, like, 6 episodes or something?
4, and supposedly it was supposed to be 4 or 6. I don't know.
So it's not that long. So I guess
no.
If there was a significant flashback scene, it actually would take up a decent percentage of the story. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Only it's tough because it's you already know what he's just there.
That's my point. Like there's I don't know. I don't
know where to go with it.
I'm excited for it and I'm gonna watch it as it comes out. I really just don't I do so much theorizing in my head of what can happen and where all the pieces fit. This one just doesn't have anything for me. So like I'm gonna go in with no expectations. I'm sure I'll love it because I love the actors. You know what I mean? And I love Obi-Wan, I love the character. So I'm sure they'll do a good job. This is not like I feel like they did have a story that was interesting when they pitched it. I don't think this was like, hey, we really should have an Obi-Wan thing. You know what I mean? So like I think someone has a good idea, which is awesome. I'm excited to see it. And the Hayden thing, I'd love for him to come back. I think that's awesome. But in terms of like me trying to figure, I don't know what they're going to do. So yeah. I'm just going to, when it comes out, I'm going to watch it and enjoy it, you know? And but if he comes back, that's awesome. I think he deserves to. And if they think this is the right place for it and then they can make it work, I'm all for it. I don't really know when else he comes back, you know what I mean? Unless they did like a Clone Wars live action version of the TV show, but like, so, you know, hopefully he can come back. Yeah.
So another rumor, circulating around, Star Wars right now, supposedly, Kessel Run Transmission said today that, Donald Glover's gonna be cast into a Star Wars Disney Plus series. Same with Billy D. Williams. They didn't say what, although everyone's is speculating it's Kenobi.
Oh, I read that Lando's getting his own show.
Oh, so I didn't even see that.
Okay.
I saw,
it was on a bunch of different like Reddit posts and from the Kessel Run, transmission, which they had Star Wars Explained on. Which are all like great channels and well connected and stuff like that. They do great stuff. So yeah, I think it's a Land. I don't think they confirmed it like by Star Wars, but I'm pretty sure they think it's a Lando. It's a Lando series. Yeah. And we'll get hopefully Alden Ehrenreich, is that how you say it? But the new Han Solo, maybe some Kira, and maybe that's where they're gonna go. I think it'd be neat if. And they, you know, I don't know the resources. Like again, we talk about this a lot. Like I'm not in the movie or TV show business, so I really don't understand how that thing works. But I think it'd be really neat, almost like what they did or they tried to do in the Marvel universe with the TV shows, where you had like Daredevil. You watched more of them than I did, but Daredevil, Punisher, weren't there a few that all interacted? What was the Mind Games girl? She's like Jessica Jones. Like, so they all kind of intertwined, or even like as much as it pained me. I watched a lot of it, but like the terrible acting, but like the CW's version of like Arrow with the Flash, and you know how you had different TV shows that combined. I don't know that there's enough interest, but for me, it'd be awesome if there was like a Han Solo, Lando, and Akira show. You know what I mean? Like if there was enough to do them all on their own shows and then they intertwined in the shows. You know what I mean? I don't think we're there yet on Disney Plus, but if this is what this may be leading to, or even if you got the Lando side of it and then a Han's season comes out and that kind of forwards that, and then Akira season forwards that. But I hope those three characters stay intertwined for this segment of time and they can build on Solo. You know, I don't know that we'll ever get Solo 2, but if we can get some version of the continuation of the timeline, I'd be happy with that. Because I think we've talked about it before. I think Solo is some of the best stuff that, you know, Rogue One and Solo, I think, are the best things out right now. And so they're totally different, right? Like movie-wise, right. I'm saying, of the new Star Wars canon. Solo got screwed by the box office after Last Jedi and everything like that. And people just, I don't think they were in the right mindset for it. But if you watch it, it's so much fun and it's so Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like it's awesome.
I mean,
Alden does a great job. Donald Glover does a great job. And Emilia Clarke does a great job. And they're really fun. I think they're really fun characters, and you get pulled in different directions. You have the Cloud Riders that are early Rebel kind of an early rebel group that get involved with the partisans at some point, and then you have Kira who's going with Crimson Dawn and Maul, and you obviously have Lando just skirting the galaxy doing whatever the hell he wants. You know what I mean? It's such a good setting for that fun version of Star Wars, and I hope that they're starting to get more into genre pieces where they're going to do like the Mandalorian's kind of westerny. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll get a war film eventually. Kenobi's going to be like a introspective character like development. You know what I mean? So like let the early Han years with Lando keep those great actors and actresses, and like let them have their own little world. You could do tons of stuff. There's plenty of time in there, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I agree. I would want him back. I mean, I want Solo too. That's my biggest thing. You know, I didn't really think about the whole like super like comparing it to Marvel, where you have all these different shows and they kind of intertwine in the universe in that sort of sense,
right?
Which would be really cool.
Even if that's how you get Solo too, maybe the Lando and the Han show or the Lando and the Kira show build up to Solo too. You know what I mean? I mean, super creative things that you can do with Disney Plus. I don't know that they're thinking. I don't know if we're there yet in the Star Wars universe, because I still think they're just trying to come out with stuff. But setups like that, I think, would be really fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you know, we need Lando back. We need everybody from Solo back in some form or fashion. It'd be interesting. Disney Plus too. I mean, I don't know if that creates a line between, you know, TV and movies, so that, you know, in terms of actors and actresses, if that changes the game a little bit, where it's like maybe people might be like, yeah, I don't want to be a part of a TV show. I want to be in the movie, like I'm a movie actor or an actress. So
I feel like in a I don't mean this in a negative way, and I don't want them. I don't think they will just sling crap up. But like, you got Disney Plus, you have Star Wars. Let's start to throw some shit against the wall here, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I think the High Republic is when it'll start to take off, because again, they're not in the box. They don't have to worry about upsetting canon and stuff like that. But I think in these timelines with Solo and Lando, there aren't super rigid boxes for that 5, 6, 7, 8 year period there, right? They can go on a lot of adventures.
I mean, we have a couple canon novels and Rebels.
Right. You know, I'm trying to think of anybody that even, like, he doesn't show up until Mos Eisley. You know, we know he works for Jabba. I mean, there's, and that's, what, 10 years after Solo, the movie, right? Doesn't Solo take place like 10 years before A New Hope?
Yeah, so that, like...
And Lando doesn't show up till Empire Strikes Back. You know, so, and Kira never shows up. So you're not really confined. You can go on all kinds of adventures. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Lando especially, because you just don't. He's just a psycho. He just goes wherever, he does whatever he wants, lives. You know, he could do anything.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, I think Solo did set it up really well that Han and Chewie were gonna start doing more like smuggling and more of that stuff, and I would love to see that. Just like see, why does Jabba? You know, we don't get
what he screwed up.
Yeah, we don't really get a ton of information from that. We kind of just know that he fucked up, and you know, Jabba wants his head.
Yeah, what doesn't he say it in the special edition when he's talking to Jabba before he gets on the thing? Wasn't he like carrying spice and got like hauled over by Imperials and had to give up the cargo or something like that? Like,
yeah, it was something like that.
But you know, there's hundreds of stories of that with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, you know, even like later in Force Awakens, you got the Kanja Club, and the Guavian Death Gang, and you know, and they're like, we've heard that before. Like, there's no more lies you can tell. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he just screws up every job, and like keep moving on to the next thing. So I think there's tons of opportunity there. But yeah, but the story is a Lando show, hopefully. But again, this is that same kind of thing. So then there'll be maybe a couple weeks, a month, 2 months, who knows, and then we'll get Lando, boom, like a title, and it'll be like, yeah. Oh wait, I already knew that was coming. Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly. And then there'll be footage in like 2 years. You know, so
it seems odd to me that they allow some of these rumors to ruminate. I don't know if they do that on purpose.
I think there's just too many people touching too many things that they're testing out so many storylines that there's just random people that are, or even like a friend of a writer that, like, you know, like if I was a writer, right, and I got to sit in and talk about, oh, like I pitched an idea and they actually thought it was cool, and I told you, and I was like, don't tell anybody, and you told someone that you trusted, and all of a sudden 2 people down the line is a friend of like a, you know what I mean? And like it would never get back to you because there were 20 people in the room. So I think a lot of that happens.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, I mean, we'll have to, you know, see how it plays out. Hopefully we get like an official announcement or something with
yep.
You know, I mean, that'd be, I mean, hopefully we get an official announcement about Hayden Christensen too at some point, but we'll see. So we'll move on to, we'll get out of Disney Plus and TV shows and everything, and now we'll talk about some video games. So you got to see, I actually did watch a few of these episodes, these videos after we talked. Star Wars Squadrons released, or some of the, I guess, what do you say, Star Wars channels, YouTube channels? I mean, some of
so games do this all the time. They'll invite people to demo the game, and then I don't think it's usually this quick, but usually you go, like, you'll hear streamers all the time say like, oh, this weekend I'm going to a thing to try something out, and basically they'll invite you. Now with COVID, you don't get invited anywhere. It's mostly you get a key on your computer, and they give you like 5 hours, or, you know, they're all different, but basically you get to play a game that's, a lot of these are AAA games, so like they don't have alphas per se, you know what I mean? So like this is just kind of like, here's what we're working on. It's pretty much done, or these things are pretty much done, and they get to play it. And then, you know, there's an NDA that they can't release anything for X amount of time. This one seemed pretty quick. I think they played it last weekend and it came out today. So there wasn't really much of an NDA, you know, two or 3 days or whatever. But it was actual footage, and it was actually there, because sometimes they go and play and they can only use stock footage that's not theirs. So all of the people that got invited got to capture it. So like you could see 10 different people, 10 different YouTube videos, but also 10 different versions of the footage because it was their footage, which I always find really neat, because it's always cool to hear like your favorite 3 reviewers talk about a game, because there'll be a different context. You know what I mean? They may like something or not, but also when they get their own footage, they're not all just staring at the same 20-minute reel. You know what I mean? I think that adds a lot too, because each one of them will test things slightly differently, you know what I mean, and have a different feel for stuff. But which ones did you, what did you think?
Well, I watched, I did Star Wars Explained first. Actually, the video quality was kind of off for some reason. I don't know if that was my computer or not, but then I went to...
I didn't notice on his, but I don't think he's like is he a streamer? I think he's more just a YouTube video, so maybe that's...
I think it's just YouTube videos, so so his was, he was, you know, pretty positive. I mean, everything, he liked the gameplay. He definitely kind of spelled it out for me in terms of, you know, it'll be an easy game to pick up, but very hard game to master. Yeah. So I kind of dig that. They're kind of setting the tone in that sense. I did watch Game Informer too. Theirs was a little bit, I guess, more in detail in terms, like, theirs was more, they're just talking while they were playing. Star Wars Explained was more like, I'm giving a review. He kind of talked like he was giving a review. So it was a little bit different. Okay. And he was talking during, Game Informer was like, they were
playing and he was just talking.
Yeah, they were playing. Gotcha. I forgot the guys' names, but they were playing, and they were actually like, "Oh, you could do this," and "Oh, this is cool," and like,
gotcha.
So I watched that one, and then
so more of a live experience.
Yeah, it was more of a live experience. I mean, and then I watched Eckhard's Ladder. Yep. And that was kind of in the same vein as Star Wars Explained. So it was. I mean, it was really cool. Just. I don't know. It looked awesome. I mean, I thought the ships, my biggest concern was the ships not having enough visibility, especially like the TIE interceptors, and they were fine. I actually was like, oh, get me in one of these things. I want to start shooting. And like, one of the other things I really, really liked, and this is probably because we play a lot of Rainbow Six, is the team aspect. Yeah. of this game. It's going to be very much of a strategy type game, I think. I mean, do you agree with that kind of?
Yeah, I was fascinated by what I was interested in is what, like we talked about when it first came out. Like, I've always enjoyed starfighters. I've never got into like where the strategy is of flying, just because like it's basically get behind someone and shoot at them, right? Like that's what most starfighter things are. So I didn't know how you add a strategy level to it. Like how pilots in real life do different things. Obviously it's different, but I'm saying like there is like theory and strategy to it. I've never played a starfighter game where it actually had much of that. You know what I mean? You just basically, like I said, you fly behind the TIE fighters, you shoot them. Like that's, it's kind of like a circles game. But they pitched this 5-man team, and especially with like the U-Wing and the TIE Reaper that are support ships, and they kind of pitched it as like they're not going to like fight, like you're going to, power up your teammates and stuff. And to me, when I saw that, I was like, wow, if this is going to work, it's going to have to be a pretty deep. There's going to be have to be a lot of checks and balances, like you're saying Rainbow Six, like how many guys counter each. Like this character has this ability that's really really good, so they come out with a character that has this ability that specifically counters that ability. You know what I mean? So like. I'm excited to see if it will have, I don't know enough like esports and stuff like that, but like a competitive scene if it's deep enough. Because really, when you think about big time competitive games, especially team based ones, right? Like, so like you think about Rainbow Six, Counter-Strike, Valorant's kind of new to the scene, League of Legends, right? Like all of those games, I think all of them are 5-on-5. And what's fascinating about them, right? And what's fascinating about them is like you take League of Legends, for example, it's the same map every single time. It's the same objective every single time. Neither of those things ever change, right? It's all the depth of the characters and what they bring and how they react to each other as a team and how they react to the people that you're playing against. And it's been around for, 10, 50, whatever it's been around for. And it's still super popular and has a huge esports team. So I don't think that's where this is going. I'm just saying if the competitive can get actually really competitive, it'd be fascinating to see if there could be, the esports thing is like another level because you have to be able to watch it and stuff. But it strikes me as like if there's that much depth, I'd be fascinated to see how the competitive scene plays out. You know what I mean? Because there's tons of checks and balances, and they have that fleet. It seems like the fleet mode is really like the main mode that they built the game around. And some people are like, oh, there's only 7 maps or whatever. But I'm thinking to myself, I mean, really in Counter-Strike, they only play like 5 maps. You know what I mean? Like when you get to that level, it's so much more about the detail of your squadron's makeup. You know what I mean? And the combination of ships you use and how and all the 50 different components and how like this guy uses a U-Wing with these 2 components that gives him an edge here, so he doesn't play well when their TIE Reaper plays these. You know what I mean? Like if there's that much going on, that's how you build like a really interesting competitive scene.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say the ships,
which is awesome.
The ships, it's not gonna be in the people; it's gonna be in the ships. That's gonna be most of your strategy. Is like, all right, what ships do we do? How are we gonna strategy taking down our enemy team? How do we take down these objectives? And then on top of that, it's it's going to be a lot of communication,
which I think is the cool part.
Yeah, it's not just going to be like you just fly in and you're just like, all right, just go after TIE fighters and that's it. I'm sure there's going to be modes where it's just like, all right, it's going to be like 64v64. You just friggin' take out people. That's all you do. I think it's going to be very much like competitive, or at least that's the mode that we saw. I don't know.
Well, they have dogfight mode is just 5-on-5, and then the fleet, I forget what they call it, fleet battle or something like that. It's still 5-on-5, but there's AI, in the middle kind of thing. But yeah, like you're saying, the individual, like it's going to take what Starfighter did in Battlefront, where like if you just figured out how to be the best interceptor, you could just destroy in a game. It sounds like when you start playing competitive, you may need to be a good interceptor, but your job is not to win the whole match. Your job is to take out these fighters. You know what I mean? And you have a really good Y-wing that you need to protect because he's going to take out. You know what I mean? It's very, very fascinating because it sounds like they've found a way, especially if, and I was worried about this because there was no gameplay like stuff, but these guys playing it and saying it is interesting to me, that they found a way to make it feel very much like what the Star Wars pitches you when they're fighting, you know, like Y-Wings, we're going to bomb. You know what I mean? Like that they had different roles and they do different things well. Whereas in Starfighter mode and even some of the other X-Wing games that were fun, it didn't really matter. You just picked whatever ship was your favorite and you just got better and tooled on people. Like it, you know what I mean? Like the bomber did have bombs, but like you could do the same thing with an X-Wing, like in terms of damage. You know what I mean? So like this will be fascinating because it sounds very much like, especially with the support ships. The support ships I'm very interested in.
Yeah.
To see what they bring to the battle. Because they were even saying, like, I watched the same ones you did, and I watched Jack Frags and a couple other ones, and like, I don't think any of the ones I saw really dabbled with the U-Wing or the TIE Reaper. They were like, I didn't really understand what to do. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like there was this long explanation. They only had 5 hours, so were you going to sit there for 5 hours and try to figure out the toughest ship to learn? You know what I mean? You're like, I can't even shoot anything. I got to, like, refuel people. But it looked awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely exciting. Hopefully, we get a little more tidbits of gameplay before. I'm sure we'll get some more stuff leading up to it. I don't know if would they do a beta or anything like that, you think? Or is it kind of just
AAA games like that? I mean, the beta isn't like a true beta. They may have a beta like 2 weeks before just to like stress test the servers and see the interest for like pre-orders or something like that. And then they close the beta and launch it 2 weeks later. Betas for like big games and pretty much anything on consoles aren't like true betas anymore. You know what I mean? They're not really fixing a ton of stuff. They're really just server testing, stress testing the servers and getting that kind of all organized. Not much changes in any of those.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it'll be definitely excited. I mean, I'm definitely going to get this game. This game falls more in line with what I'm looking for but then again, I want to get Fallen Order now too. So, because I've been on a Zelda kick.
Yep.
I believe, what was it? Is it October that drops? Yeah, middle of October.
End of October, yeah.
October. So, so if you're, big video, if you're a big gamer, I mean, Star Wars Squadrons might be up your alley, so definitely check that out. I think that's all we got for today. I think that's all we got. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No. Oh, we did. So the one more piece of news, there was an Aphra, what do they call it? A radio drama, or audio drama. Yeah.
Yep.
Dr. Aphra. Kind of like the Dooku Lost one. I haven't got a chance to check it out yet. But it did drop, I think yesterday or a day or two ago. So if you've been following Aphra, which if you haven't, her comic series is awesome. She'd be a really cool TV show to go after too. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones type thing, where she's like I don't even know how to explain it. It's awesome. But I think they redid, it's either a new book or they redid one of the comic books or something, and it's a full-on audio drama with different voices and stuff. So I will be checking that out. I haven't got a chance, but I just thought I'd mention it for anyone who's into that kind of stuff or looking for some new content.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot about that. So but I think that wraps up this episode of Pod Between Worlds. As always, thank you for joining us and support the podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We're on Twitch right now. You can also check us out on all podcast streaming services. And share with your friends and family. We're always looking for feedback too. So, we appreciate the support. Other than that, we'll catch you later, Padawans.